Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to my book corner. We have another bite-sized review for you today, and this is for Deadfolk by Katherine Silva. This is book 2 in the Deadlands trilogy of novels, and this came out back in August of 2024. I read book 1 as part of Don't Die July last year. Let's see how book 2 holds up. So first off, the blurb for this one. Once upon a time, a woman thought she made peace with her grief. As she tended the dying land, she befriended a symbol that reminded her of her beloved father, who died at the hands of a selfish doctor. But grief is perennial, and after she loses her new friend, she discovers hope was just an illusion too. Magic meanders back into her life, and with a hunger for retribution unlike any felt before. So this picks up pretty much straight off from where book 1 finishes. And we have the spoilers for book 1, first of all. In book 1, our main character had bound the spirit of one of her fathers into a fox. And the whole idea was to try and get them to remember who they were. And just as they remembered who they were, they died again. Kind of breaking our main character a little bit. Now, worth mentioning here, our main character has two fathers, or had two fathers, I should say. And unfortunately, there's no way they're fetching the first one back. Because magic needs very specific circumstances and things to work. And there's no access to some of those materials at this point. However, her other father is also dead, so goes about trying to fetch them back. But something about the spell isn't quite working. She's having to substitute certain materials. She has an inability to cry right now, so she uses spit instead as an example. And it's not quite landing, and she's not sure why. One thing she is sure of, though, is that she wants vengeance on those that caused her father to perish. So she goes back to the place where her second father is buried, and she is still remembered, still distrusted. But she manages to convince the local undertaker to dig up the body of her other father so she can get bones, basically, to do the spell. And still, it doesn't work. So at this point, driven by vengeance, she goes after the people who were truly responsible for the death in the first place, and ends up in an old hotel in the middle of town where she discovered that they stay. And this is a very luxurious hotel. The sort of hotel that only has like 10 rooms in it, and they're all massive suites. And from this point, you have a couple of set-piece fights with a couple of the Stooges, which are quite interestingly done, as you have three very different sort of characters with very different sort of skill sets. To break this down into the most basic terms, you have sort of the mind-bending assassin who can get into your head. You have the witch, and you have the big bulky bruiser before the final boss at the end. And the final boss at the end is a really, really interesting twist as well, which I didn't see coming, and I really appreciate what they did with that. The fights, I should say, are really, really well done. They're really smartly worked, and they really do play into our character as this sort of survivor character, being really driven by their own internal pain, but also being pretty smart about what they're doing and using misdirection, so I appreciate that quite a lot. The second half of this worked far better for me than the first half. Just in terms of pacing, it's a lot faster in the second half. It takes a little bit of time to get going. I do wonder if part of the issue with that is because it's been so long since I read the first of the novellas. This does come in at only 75 pages long, so I do think I would have probably enjoyed it more if I'd have read them back to back. But overall, by the time I got to the end of this, I'm really, really curious to see where this takes off to. I really do like the twist at the end. It was a proper gut punch as well, I need to say that. Really excited to read book 3 in the series, which I will read for Don't Die July as well. I'll read that by the end of the month because I've picked it up now. But that is my thoughts on Deadfolk by Katherine Silva, another strong entry in the trilogy. Well worth checking these out if you haven't already. They're available pretty cheap over on Amazon. Well, that's my thoughts on Deadfolk by Katherine Silva. Have you read the series? What do you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you all very soon.